এবার বল, বলো, বলো।
Thank you, Prashant.
স্বাগতম। Wow.
Well, I'm very happy you're in the class. It's very important class.
Kajiram, Koshbal, you see. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste, namaste. And in this session, we're going to begin a discussion of the Kashyap Sutras. And they are part of the book called Shrima, the Guru and the Goddess. And I'd like to show you the cover because many people said you can't judge a book by its cover. And yet, this cover was drawn by a very dear friend of ours, an old sadhu named Richard Odo. And it's signed in 1995. And it was taken from a photograph that we had from earlier 1980s. And that's what Srima looked like. That was the picture of the girl I fell in love with so many years ago. And we've been reading these sutras and this book for many, many years. So I wanted to share it all with you all. This version of the book was originally published in 1995, but it came from a series of satsangs that we used to conduct when we were translating scriptures as we traveled around the world. We used to have satsangs everywhere, and Ma would sing, and I would talk, and we would tell stories, and we would translate these sutras of Kashyap. And I'd like to get right to the table of contents. There are 4 sections in the table of contents. An introduction, and then the Kashyap Sutras, the Guru Gita, and the Lolita Trishati, the 300 verses of the dancing, playful, lovable, beautiful goddess who dances through life along with us. And therefore, the book was called The Guru and the Goddess. because it has the Guru Gita and the stories and the names of the playful goddess. Well, let's turn to the introduction on page number 4. Introduction. She is the guru. She is the goddess. She is the inspiration for thousands of spiritual aspirants in many parts of the world. Now, here in one book are collected some of the most important teachings of that being, known by devotees in many countries as Sri Ma, the respected Holy Mother. Remember, Sha means Shanti, Ra means your mind, E means your heart, and the respect is listening with peace in your mind and your heart, and she is Ma, the Mother, the respected Holy Mother. In conformity to the scriptural injunction, true knowledge bestows humility. That came from Vidyasagar. Probably in the late 1800s. He was a great philosopher. He represented that in Bengali. Her most important and noticeable attribute is humility. She is truly knowledgeable. Even while commanding the respect of giants of industry, of political leaders around the world, she refuses to spend a penny on herself. She lives in the most humble surroundings, eats a simple diet, sits for worship at least 8 hours a day, and lights a candle for all of those who are oppressed and perplexed. Her meditation is so still. Her love is so pure. Her giving is so profound that her presence makes an impact upon all who visit her. She has no mission. She has no institution. She allows no politics, no seminars, no fundraisers, nor charges for anything that goes on around her. And she shares so abundantly. She is open to receive others, accessible to the point of abandoning all privacy. Wherever she resides, her house is a temple, and people gather to worship with her. This book is a collection of some of her divine inspirations. Often she speaks the most profound truths in a simple English which all listeners find amazing. We who have been educated in cumbersome verbosity can hardly believe that our language can be so creatively expressive, even while avoiding grammatical or intellectual complexity. Other times she speaks through an interpreter, and who seems to be as astounded by the sophistication of her thought as by the magnificence of her language, and her words and ideas are a constant inspiration to us all to make real changes in the values of our lives so as to manifest the ideals by which she lives. Her philosophy exudes the clarity of universality. She summarizes her thoughts with artistic sculpture. We believe in one, all-pervading, infinite divinity, which resides in all of creation and beyond all limitations, and is especially manifest in the hearts of all devotees. That this deity inspires within seekers sincerity, love, wisdom, and joy. That all bodies are temples for the Holy Spirit, and that the duty of man is to honor God through respect to all beings of creation and to attentive devotion in the pursuit of self-realization. But more important than the eloquence of her speech is the example of her conduct. History has recorded so many inspiring talks by great orators throughout the ages, but to find a pure soul who actually embodies such behavior is indeed rare. Sri Ma is such a unique individual. She actually opens her heart to all existence to find a place for all. Her every action reflects the abandonment of selfishness. And we who are privileged to know her gain in the strength of our faith that it is possible to attain godliness without any selfish motivation. The privilege to witness her poise and balance enhances the convictions of all spiritual souls that the goals of our discipline can actually become a reality. The objectives of spiritual life are not a mere dream or wishful thinking of our imaginations, but in fact can be attained. No one can imagine how great an effect such first-hand experience can have in expediting the progress of a spiritual aspirant. Living in the presence of a saint is truly a decisive factor. It makes the theory come alive. The Guru and the Goddess includes 3 important works which are used for study and sadhana in Sri Ma's ashrams. The first is a translation and commentary of the Kasaypa Sutras, which appeals to both Gyanis and Bhaktas alike. Sri Ma and Swami Satyananda give a complete description of how these principles apply in our lives. Every now and then, Sri Ma breaks into song. Swamiji translates and tells teaching stories from the sadhus of India, and the satsangs combine the teaching of Sanskrit grammar with the music and joy of a personal relationship with the teacher. The second section is a Sanskrit text and translation of the Guru Gita. Through devotion to the Guru, we gain inspiration to make changes in our values, and therefore our goals change. As the goals evolve, we find new paths by which to reach them. When we look around, we are new people, pursuing new destinations with new associations, reflecting new ideals. This is the process of the Guru Gita. The third section is a Sanskrit text and translation of the Lalita Trishati Stotram, a definition of Sri Vidya, an explanation of the Sri Chakra Yantra, an exposition of 300 names of the Divine Mother, indicative of 300 divine attributes which seekers can strive to emulate. These 3 teachings combine to make intellectual understanding a foundation upon which to erect our devotional practices. The practices move the aspirant from the intellectual contemplation of the whys and hows of creating a discipline to the practical applications of actually sitting for recitation of the Sanskrit texts, how to sit, how to breathe, how to become one with the Guru, one with the gods. Sri Ma has obviously made this journey. Now she is making it possible for others to join her. If you have any inclination to enhance your relationships, to increase your efficiency, or expand your practices of devotion, this book contains a new vocabulary of concepts which will bring you closer to your goal. Please join in the delight of worship. And that was written sometime in the early 1990s as we traveled around the world, translating so many of the scriptures in the satsangs that we performed. And now the introduction to the Kashyap Sutras, beginning on page 8. And this was written by Linda Johnson, who wrote the book called The Daughters of the Goddess. That came out, I think, in the 2000s or the late 1990s. It was a story of Sri Ma and all her sisters, so many of the female saints of India. The Saptarishis, the 7 primordial sages, are mysterious figures whose spiritual luminescence has fired the Hindu imagination for thousands of years. Said to have been born directly from the mind of God, Brahma Manasputra. These seers imparted the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal truth rooted in the divine essence of our being, to the earliest race of humanity. One of them, legend says, shone so brilliantly with inner light that his contemporaries called him a human sun. His name was Kashyap. The Kashyap Sutras offer us a glimpse of the immense wisdom of this ancient saint. They also reveal his humanity, for like teachers today, he kept class notes, a syllabus of topics he intended to cover in his lecture. These sutras represent the quintessence of the insights he would elaborate as he sat down to teach his eager students. Fortunately, in our own darker era, saints of similar wisdom and spiritual equipoise are still among us. At the Devi Mandir in Northern California, Sri Ma quietly guides sincere disciples to their own inner sun. She teaches practices current in her native Assam, where she herself wandered for years, lost in God. Ritual worship, chanting of sacred hymns and mantras, selfless service, and devotion to the Mother of the Universe. This is not a beginner's course. Sri Ma is working with students who are already devoting 2 or 3 hours daily to spiritual practice and are striving to increase their level of concentration till they can worship and meditate for 8 or 9 hours every day. As those who have visited the mandir know, Sri Ma usually says very little. Her tranquil luminosity puts an end to the necessity for words. But she sometimes joins with Swami Satyananda as they playfully engage us in the realm of questions and answers, broadening and clarifying our understanding of the ancient tradition he and Ma represent. In a series of delightful evening talks, they help us wade into the eddy of the vast flood of Kashyap's divine knowledge. As Swami explains the inner significance of Kashyap's ancient sutras, Sri Ma listens intently, interrupting from time to time to illuminate a point. When we students find ourselves veering too sharply toward the dry bank of mere intellectual understanding, sometimes she spontaneously breaks into song, intensifying the atmosphere of devotion. Unobtrusively, Parvati, a most humble and serviceful devotee, records the talks and takes notes. From the sacrificial fire of Swamiji's words, Parvati's transcription, and Ma's illumined awareness, this book takes form and shines as an offering to the force of enlightened awareness in us all. There are 15 verses propounded by Maharshi Kashyap, which are known as the Kashyap Sutras, which describe the concept of enlightenment and the path to its attainment. A sutra is a thread, most often a thread that holds things together, like a mala or a garland. So these are the 15 principles on Kashyap's mala that bind the individual soul to the universal soul. Su means excellent. Tra is from trayate, that which takes away. The sutra is that which takes away all obstructions to excellence. For practical purposes, though, a sutra is an abbreviated outline. For example, if one were going to attend a convocation of religiously inclined souls to present a discourse, he probably wouldn't have the time or the inclination to write out the entire subject so that he could cover all the topics. That he might like to make a few notes of the major points for discussion so that he could cover all the topics. That outline of major points is a sutra. And these would be the main subjects that were to be included in the discourse. In ancient India, there were many great philosophical convocations. In fact, the kings of India would gather together and offer substantial prizes to the sadhus who won the debates. All of the sadhus would gather together and conduct an excellent debates of philosophical discourse. A relic of this practice is called the Kumbh Mela, which originally was the grandfather of all the festivals. The Kumbh Mela was the festival of the Kumbh, the container of excellence, the container of consciousness. Kumbh is another name for a container, the container of consciousness. The Kumbh Mela is a convocation which is the container of the excellence of philosophy. Every 12 years, sadhus came from all over the world to join in discourses, debates, and discussions. The kings would feed all of the participants to gain punya, merit, and they would listen to the discourses. They would also look for the gurus who could advise them on the proper way to administer their affairs. It was an excellent opportunity for prospective disciples to interview their gurus. Generally, it was the custom that the winners of the debates would find many disciples from the Kumbh Mela. And thus, it offered a wonderful opportunity for gurus and disciples to meet each other. Many of those discourses were given using a sutra, an abbreviated outline of the main topics to be included in the discussion. And many of these sutras were preserved by the disciples of that lineage. Perhaps the best known among all the sutras are the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which became the basis for what is called Raj Yoga. But there are many other famous sutras. The Kashyap Sutras are not extremely well known. Kashyap himself had a very fascinating history. Kashyap was one of the original Saptarishis, the 7 seers of the divine wisdom or truth. He had 2 wives, Diti and Aditi. Aditi gave birth to the 12 Adityas, or the first 12 gods. Indra, Agni, Mitra, Varuna, Arjaman, Vayu, Som, Bhaga, Bhushan, and the Ashwin, Vashu, and Surya. Diti gave birth to all the other beings of the physical creation, the beings of the earth, as compared with Aditi, who gave birth to the beings of the divine. Kashyap and Aditi took birth together on 3 specific occasions. He was born first as Swayambhuva Manu, while Aditi was born as Satyarupa. They are similar to the Adam and Eve of the Bible, representing the first human couple of existence. Swayambhuva means he who becomes of his own accord, the first man. Satyarupa means the form of true existence. We are all descendants of Swayambhuva Manu and Satyarupa. They performed a great tapasya to propitiate Lord Vishnu. And finally, the Lord came to them and said, "What do you want?" And they answered, "We would like to have a son like you." And Vishnu smilingly replied, "Tathastu, I give you that boon." So Swayambhuva Manu and Satyarupa took their second birth in the Treta Yuga as Dasarat and Kaushalya, the parents of Lord Ram. In the Dwapar Yuga, Kashyap and Aditi took their birth as Vasudeva and Devaki, the parents of Lord Krishna. And these were the 3 incarnations of Kashyap and Aditi. First as Swayambhuva Manu and Satyarupa, second as Dasarat and Kaushalya, and then as Vasudeva and Devaki. Kashyap is the father of creation, which is called the Kashyap Srishti, after him. As one of the 7 rishis, Kashyap was the progenitor of existence. Kashyap is said to have written these sutras, or at least the realization of these points of philosophy has been ascribed to him. These 15 verses are really excellent topics for discussion. Let us begin our study. Oh, let's begin with Sutra number 1. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Sutra number 1 on page 12 in the book of the Guru and the Goddess. Prarabdha Vashat Janma. Wow. Prarabdha Vashat. Janma means birth. Vashat means bound or dependent upon. Prarabdha karma, those actions commenced in the past, which are coming to fruition now and in the future. Birth is dependent upon the prarabdha karma. Those actions commenced in the past, which are coming to fruition to fulfillment now and in the future. According to those actions, we take birth, not only the birth of the body, but the birth of every moment. The circumstances which are evolving in every moment of time are based upon that prarabdha karma. There are 4 kinds of karma in existence. Samshipta is the karma which is completed, over, done with. It is finished. It is full, complete, and perfect. There is nothing more left to be done. Vartman is present karma. That karma which is going on right now. It is in process. Prarabdha karma are the actions which were begun in the past, which will come to fruition in the future. So we have Sanshipta, over and done with, Vartman, present, and Prarabdha, coming to fruition in the future. Past, present, and future. Shankaracharya uses the analogy of the arrow which leaves the bow of the archer. Once the arrow is set forth from the bow, there is nothing that the archer can do to alter its course, but to watch and see where it may land. He has no control after it left the bow. This is what we call prarabdha karma. Every action is an arrow, and that has already been released.
When you're thread, we have a stop from the goal, right? So, yeah.
Yes, but once the arrow is in flight, there's nothing to do to change it.
But when you go there, then you go there.
Then it comes in the future.
Okay.
When it goes there, it is in the future karma. It gives birth to future karma. When it's past, it's over and done with. I shot the arrow. Now it is in flight. There's nothing I can do. It's right now. And now when it lands, I can rejoice because I hit my target, or I can be sad because I missed the target, or I can shoot another arrow and make more karma, or this is what we call prarabdha karma.
Okay.
He has no control over it after it leaves the bow. Every action is an arrow that has already been released. All of us are the actors waiting for our arrows to land. When an arrow lands, if we react, we shoot another arrow. The arrows continue in rapid succession until we cultivate the spirit of renunciation known as udas. U means circumstance. All, ma. A is creation, U is preservation, circumstance, what is right now. Ma is transformation or dissolution or destruction, or what's going to happen in the future. U means what is right now, the circumstance. And das means the servant of. And udas literally and philologically means the servant of circumstances. It symbolizes acceptance, freedom from reaction, complete surrender. When one attains udas, the spirit of surrendering, then there is total acceptance of every circumstance without the shooting of new arrows. We free ourselves from the reactions of desire and revulsion. There's akarshan, bikarshan. The desire for and the desire against. An anti-desire desire. Now, we free ourselves from all desire. We see all of the karma that commenced in the past and watch dispassionately as all of those arrows land without firing new arrows again. The fourth kind of karma is known as nitya karma, eternal karma. Nitya karma actually means yoga. It is complete union. Yoga is defined as chitta vritti nirodha. Chitta means the objects of awareness, the objects of consciousness. Vritti means activities or modifications, any change. Nirodha means prohibition, cessation, obstruction. When there is a complete cessation of the activities of the objects of consciousness, there is a perfectly still consciousness. if your consciousness, if your awareness is not changing, then it's still. And when there is no modification or change, there is yoga. That is known as union. Yoga is nitya karma, eternal. The activities which are eternal, chitta, vritti, nirod, is the perfection, the perfect stillness of consciousness, without activities, without modifications, without changes in awareness. Traditionally, there are 4 aspects of yoga: dhyan, meditation; gyan, wisdom; bhakti, devotion; and karma, activity. These 4 are inseparably connected, but spoken of as 4 different disciplines so that seekers can intellectually understand the distinctions between them. However, in reality, without devotion, can we pay attention? Without knowledge, can we perform effective action? Without effective action, can we gain knowledge? And thus, the 4 aspects of yoga are inseparably connected in the path of union and are not different disciplines, but actually are the 4 components of one path. All of us in every path needs dhyan, gyan, bhakti, and karma. From the moment of conception in the womb, the life of duality begins. That first awareness of individuality comes as a result of the karma. We have a lot of outstanding debts. We have many arrows that have been shot off into the atmosphere, and we are waiting for them to land. That is the karma. It is for the purpose of perfecting that karma, of fulfilling the destiny that we ourselves have created, that we have taken, all of us have taken birth. And then every moment of our lives takes birth as a consequence of that same prarabdha voshat janma. Every birth takes place because of prarabdha karma, the birth of every moment in time, the birth of every circumstance, the birth of every being. It all takes place in the fulfillment of the process of karma, prarabdha vosat janma. Ma says that you can make friends with prarabdha karma. If you try to make friends, at that time you will become pure. I'd like to share with you a Mother's Day prayer for the Divine Mother written by Sri Ma in Bengali, which tells us something about making friends with prarabdha karma. While the original Bengali is so beautiful, we will try to share it in English. Oh, dearest Divine Mother, we offer our prayer unto you. We are your children. Please, please accept our plea. Divine Mother, you are the bestower of excellence. You are the well-wisher of the universe, the intrinsic nature of the wisdom of existence. You are the form of the Creator. Please always illuminate the universe for us. May we become eternally pure, and may the spirit of purity reside within us. Please be a protector to all. Please cause all behavior to be true. Illuminate this universe with truth. Please destroy all sin and protect us from all evil. Please emanate light in the form of the bodies of gods and goddesses. Please illuminate all souls with wisdom. This is my prayer. Shrima. I must confess that it was much more beautiful in the original Bengal. But I tried to do it justice. Presumably, all birth takes place in order to finish karma. The birth of every reaction, the birth of every relationship, the birth of every moment, the birth of every body. That is our function, our purpose. We are all bound by unfinished karma. With this knowledge, it behooves us to perform every action as thoroughly and efficiently as possible, so we don't have to come back to finish it or incomplete work. Bound by unfinished karma is birth, which is the birth of every action, every moment. To attain freedom from reaction, we must remember that the karma is the arrow that is coming to land. When it lands and hits its mark, then we react and send off another arrow. If only we could stop and look where it landed before we start shooting off arrows again. If we must respond, we should give a response designed to free ourselves from further troubles. We should think about what we're going to do. Such discrimination would mean living life perfectly. Our responses should be calculated to take us to a better place than we are already at. Responses designed to accomplish our objectives. If we could just find some way to ask ourselves, what do I want to accomplish before I react? What do I want to get before I respond to this? What would be an appropriate response designed to get what I want? If we could just stop and put one instant of discrimination between the stimulus and the response, then we could live life perfectly. Every being manifested at every moment that comes to birth because of our unfinished business. There is some reason that it comes into manifestation, and the arrows we have shot will land. When the stimulus does come, do we react reflexively, or do we control ourselves and design a response that will bring us closer to what we want in the furtherance of our goals? Do we know what we want? Or do we react emotionally on transient impulses? When we react emotionally, are we not creating more karma for ourselves? So that once again we condemn ourselves to wait for those new arrows to land? It is evident that the difference between the yogi, the being of union, and the bogi, the being of selfish enjoyment, is that moment of discrimination, which is the interlude between stimulus and response. There is a moment of recollection, a moment of remembrance in which the yogi asks, what do I want to attain from these circumstances? Before I respond emotionally and get my ego involved in what I perceive to be a stimulus, before I even calculate the appropriate response, I must ask myself, what do I want to get? Only when I know what is my objective is, can I possibly consider the next question. What action of mine would bring me closer to the goal? There are traditionally 8 limbs of yoga. The first one is called yam, to take control. One takes control in life by defining goals. It is not possible to find a path until we know what the goal is. Without this knowledge, we cannot prevent ourselves from moving in the direction of any force greater than our own. So we must begin the process of union with a clear definition of the goal. The second step in yoga is called niyam, which means to create a discipline. We must budget our time, budget our resources, budget our mind. How much can we dedicate in the pursuit of each of our goals? Without a clear definition of our goals and the discipline with which to attain them, it is impossible to have criteria with which to discriminate which actions will take us closer and which will actually take us farther away. Without criteria for discrimination, all actions become extremely arbitrary. We find no capacity to devote ourselves to the higher disciplines of putting our body, our breath, our senses, and ultimately our minds into harmony. The third step of yoga is called asana, putting the body in harmony. Asana literally means to sit quietly and to make oneself present. It does not necessarily mean to twist yourself up like a pretzel. More often, it refers to the practice of putting your body into such a state of harmony and balance that you no longer require to pay attention to it. The body in balance is free from need. Therefore, it sits quietly, allowing one to make oneself present. The primary reason for practicing various hatha yoga postures is to train the body to sit still. The fourth step of yoga is called pranayama, controlling the breath. The breath is a vehicle by which we rejuvenate the body, and a vehicle out of control is extremely dangerous. By paying attention to the breath, we regulate the length of each cycle of inhalation, retention, and exhalation, and maintain vigilance over the qualities that are energizing our system. There are several formulas for pranayama depending upon the purpose. We will discuss some of them of the more classical means of controlling breath in greater detail later. The fifth step of yoga is called pratyahara, withdrawing the senses from the objects of sense. It means to bring your senses inside. Stop looking outside. Close all of your senses. Look within. Then comes dharana, concentration. Collect all the different thoughts in the mind and concentrate on one. In dharana, there are three: subject, an object, and a relationship. I love you. There is a lover, a recipient of the love, and the love which binds us together. In dhyana, meditation, the next step in the path to union, there are only two: a subject and an object. The relationship is understood. In meditation, there is an undefinable intuitive cognition. It is often curious to listen to people speak of meditation practices before they have organized their lives or defined their goals or established their discipline. Most probably, there is a confusion between introspection, daydreaming, and meditation. Undoubtedly, the practice and the attainment are described by the same word, but dhyana, as it applies in the path of yoga, refers to absorption in meditation. Samadhi means completion, accomplishment, the perfection of union. In samadhi, There is only one. I don't believe yogis are free from karma. No one is free from action, not Brahma, not Vishnu, nor Shiva. But people can free themselves from attachment to the fruits of their actions. They do that by designing their reactions to situations in their lives so as not to get into any deeper trouble than they are already in. We don't want to make matters worse than they already are. Yogis figure out what they want to attain and how they should go about getting it, rather than just reacting to every present situation with transient emotion. Two sadhus went off to meditate on the mountain. And as they were climbing, they met some people from the village coming down. The people warned them, you better be careful up there. There is a ferocious bear who is causing all kinds of havoc. The sadhu said, well, let's just go anyway. God will protect us. And so they camped out on the side of the hill. That night, they took their food and climbed into their bedding and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, they heard a noise. It's the bear. Both of them turned pale with fright. One of them got an illumination and immediately started putting on his running shoes. The other sadhu looked at him incredulously and said, do you think you are actually going to outrun that bear? And the sadhu replied, no, I really don't. But I have analyzed the situation. I only have to run faster than you. This is an example of discrimination. Mala gives another example. There was once a lady of questionable repute who lived across the street from a temple. A sannyasi who lived in the temple came to that lady one day and said, you are living a contemptible life. I want to show you the heaps of your sins. For every visitor that comes to see you, I'm going to put down a stone. And he did. He sat on the temple steps and he watched who came in and who and out of that lady's house. Every time a visitor came, he put a stone there. And that woman said, oh my God, will you ever forgive me? What else can I do with my life? I don't know any other way to make a living. Look at all of those stones there. And meanwhile, the sannyasi sat in the temple and said, that damnable woman, look at the heaps of sins that she is piling up. Through the years, they continued this behavior until there was virtually a mountain of stones and sins piled up in front of the temple. The poor woman was totally distraught and constantly in prayer, dear Lord, please forgive me, but show me any other way and I will be glad to follow. One day, a carriage came racing down the street, ran over the woman, and she died. All of the citizens proclaimed, oh, what a relief. All of that sin is gone from our community. It just so happened that the sannyasi died on that same day. They threw the lady's body out beyond the gates, where it was torn apart and devoured by dogs. They took the sadhu on a silk stretcher covered with flowers, with a brass band. They marched all around the city and took his body to the burning ghats, where they cremated him with sandalwood. His soul went up to heaven, and God said, what are you doing here? You do not belong here. And the sannyasi said, what do you mean? I do not belong here. I lived in the temple. God said, oh no, Your body lived in the temple, but your mind was constantly across the street with that prostitute. You go to hell. She is coming to heaven, even though her body was engaged in those irreligious acts. Her mind was constantly begging for forgiveness. Therefore, she deserves a place in heaven. You go. This is another example of discrimination. If you can put your mind into a state of remembrance, and that's a big if, because that is what we are praying for. But if we are blessed with that remembrance, then we can just stop for a moment to plan our lives. Whenever we are confronted with a stimulus, we can just stop for one moment and say, I will think before I respond. As we cultivate this habit of discrimination, we find that anger, passion, greed, lust, avarice, and ignorance all dissolve into discrimination, vivek. Ma speaks in Bengali again, and Swamiji translates. Remove the ego and attachment from the performance of all the activities for which we are responsible. Go to your places of work, go to your schools and offices, carry yourselves as a great renunciate. Inspire people to act in truth. When they get angry for no reason, ask them very politely, what are they trying to accomplish? Do you know what you're trying to get with your anger? Think of what you will receive for what you are putting out. If that is what you want, would you want your disciples to follow you? These are very pertinent questions to all of us who happen to be gurus and disciples in every action that we perform and in every circumstance. The greatest of all things is faith. Every action should be a manifestation of your respect. That would be a better definition of a yogi. Not someone who has no karma, but someone who shows respect through every karma. The highest respect is to pay attention. Perfect attention is meditation. In meditation, there is no past, there is no future. It is nitya karma, eternal activity. In paying respect, one attains victory over death. Parabda Boshat Jan.
Jai Ma. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's so fun. Very good.
Namaste.
Namaste, Swami.
That's what we were doing in 30 and 40 years ago. You know what? We're still doing it. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.
Thank you all for joining the class. If, as Swamiji told, if you like this class, stay tuned and join us tomorrow.
Thank you.
So
Pranam.
many people. Pranam. Namaste.
Pranam, Mother. Pranam. Pranam, Swamiji. Pranam, Mother.
Pranam Swamiji, Pranam.
Namaste. Namaste Krishna. Namaste Mukti.
Namaste.
Namaste,
Namaste Hari.
Swamiji. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste Vyame.
Understanding.
Namaste.
Very beautiful, Mother. Thank you, Swamiji.
Consciousness.
Thank
Jai
you.
Ma.
Jai Ma.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Jai Ma.